Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about jobs that you can get in a hospital that are not respiratory, nursing, or being a doctor. So if you want to find out where else you could work in a hospital that still pays pretty well, stick around and listen to more. Hey guys, I'm Daniel from Doldier Media, and today I'm going to be talking about jobs that you can get in a hospital that are pretty good and they don't have to be nursing or respiratory or even being a doctor. The reason I decided to make this video is because when I started off going to school, I was really having a hard time deciding what I wanted to do. I had my mindset on nursing, but then I started learning about respiratory therapy. Along the way, I didn't even know what kind of jobs I could even choose from. I really wish somebody told me what jobs existed in the hospital. It took me until I actually started working in a hospital to see everything that was out there. But if you are looking for a job, if you're somebody that's kind of struggling with deciding what they want to do, I hope this video helps you. I've been working in healthcare for over half a decade, and I've met a lot of people that work in certain industries and different parts of the hospital. I've got a chance to talk to a lot of these people, and there's a lot of really good jobs out there that don't necessarily require 5, 6, 7, 8 years of schooling. So if you are looking for a job in a hospital, but you don't necessarily want to go through all the schooling, then you're going to want to listen to this. The first job is going to be Radiologist Technician or anything to do with radiology. Now, obviously a full-blown radiologist does take a lot of schooling, but they also do get paid about $200,000 to $300,000 a year. But I'm talking about the technicians or the people that do the actual dirty work when it comes down to radiology. So if you want to get into this field, it's a really good, prestigious job that isn't that difficult. There are a lot of times where you're going to have to lift some heavy patients. But beyond that, though, it's a pretty well-rounded job where you deal more with the computer side of the job, and you get to deal with more of taking pictures through either an MRI, a CT, or anything to do like an X-ray. So this has to do with imagery in the hospital, and you kind of get to see the insides of people without having to cut them up. Now, according to Glassdoor, the average salary is just under $50,000 in the United States. This does change when you go to different states. Like here in California, it's definitely a lot more than $50,000. Places like New York, Seattle, any of the bigger cities, it's going to be a lot higher than $50,000. But for the average in the U.S., it's about $50,000 a year, which is pretty good. It doesn't require that much schooling. There's programs that are about 2 years long, and some of them are, I think, even a year long. But overall, it's a good job to get into in a hospital if you're not trying to do what nurses do or if you're not trying to do what RTs do. It's a good opportunity to work in a hospital, get a good salary, do a really good job, help people, but yet not have to deal with patients all the time. You get a little bit of a break between seeing people while you're on this job. The next job is going to be Environmental Services, or EVS. This job is going to be a really good foot in the door if you're trying to step up and get another job in the hospital, or also if you just want to do that. EVS usually is responsible for maintaining the health and sanitation of the hospital. So like when a patient gets discharged, they'll make sure the room is clean for the next patient. If there's any kind of bacteria or anything that you have to deal with, they kind of clean everything, and they do a really good job at what they do. Every hospital in the United States is going to need EVS to help clean and help keep the place sanitized. So this job is always going to be needed, and it's a pretty good job overall. The people I talk to are pretty happy with what they do. It's a really good opportunity to also start working in a hospital and move your way up. Many of the people that I talk to in EVS eventually get jobs in other departments. They kind of get to see what area of the hospital they like, and a lot of people that I knew, they ended up working as clerks or they ended up getting jobs as nurses eventually. But it was their way of getting their foot in the door. According to Glassdoor, which I'm not sponsored by them, but I just kind of like their websites. They're pretty reliable. But according to their website, they get about $30,000 on average in the United States. Now, that doesn't seem high, but it's also an entry-level job with very minimal amounts of education needed. I think there's a few classes you take. There's also a few certificates to get, but it's not like a full 2-year course you have to take to get this job. In places like California, where I live, it goes up to about $25 an hour, which ends up being about $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Like I was saying, it's not too high of a paying job, but it's still a good foot in the door if you want to see kind of what you want to do in a hospital, but you're not sure of exactly where you want to work. or if you really like doing this, it's a really good job by itself. The next job you might want to look into is physical therapy assistant. Now, it's not a full physical therapist because those actually require a master's or I think even a PhD to work there. It's a very high level job with a lot of education involved. They're pretty much doctors at this point, but not a physical therapist, a physical therapy assistant. You kind of work with the patients more. You're not the one that actually plans out what happens, but you're the one that actually does the work with the patients. Physical therapy assistants do a range of things. You could work in occupational therapy, which is kind of doing your daily activities of life, or full-blown physical therapy kind of things, which is just getting rehabilitation and working your muscles. According to Glassdoor, they get about $50,000 to $60,000 a year in the United States. That does go up in bigger cities like we talked about. Most of these jobs are going to be a lot higher in places that have big cities. But physical therapy assistants, it's a really good job. The ones I've talked to love their job. They love what they're doing. I think there's about a 1 to 2 year program that you have to take, but it's not as bad as I personally think like a nursing program. I think that's a little bit more intense. It's a little bit easier, and there's a lot of them that are in demand. A lot of the hospitals in our area need physical therapy assistants. So if you're trying to get into a hospital, that's something you could look into. It's a pretty good job. Now, if you want a little bit more schooling, but more of a career that you could work at in the hospital, there's two actually that I would recommend. The first one's going to be information technologist or an IT at a hospital. They get paid around $60,000 to $70,000 in most hospitals. You're going to be fixing things like the charting system, or if people can't clock in, logins, passwords. There's a wide array of things that you're going to be working on. I have one of my close friends that works there, and actually he's working from home right now. He just deals with working on these systems, and he doesn't have to leave his house. So it's a really good job. It does take a lot more schooling than an average entry-level job, and you are going to have to be familiar with things like servers and things like working with any kind of computer science things. Beyond that, another good job that also takes a lot of schooling is going to be engineering in a hospital. Engineers in a hospital make a lot of money. According to Glassdoor, they're actually making nearly $80,000 a year in the United States. That's a really good pay. These people do everything in the hospital. If anything's broken, they're usually going to call engineering, and engineering is going to fix everything from the doors to switches to computer monitors. Pretty much anything not working in a hospital is going to go through engineering. They also approve everything that has to be running in a hospital. I've personally never seen engineers do so many different things. The people that I know are usually civil engineers or mechanical engineers, but these hospital engineers, they're kind of like not only the maintenance men, but also the brains behind the whole hospital. If the oxygen goes down in the whole hospital, they're the ones that are going to be fixing it. If anything goes down like the electricity, they're going to be the ones that are going to be dealing with the issue. So they do a really good job. They get paid a lot of money, and a lot of hospitals need many of them. Some honorable mentions I'd like to make if you don't necessarily want to do too much schooling, or at least a minimal amount of schooling. One of them is going to be transporter. You're going to transport patients from one place to another place. Usually you transport them for radiology or any kind of things they have to do within the hospital. It's a good job. You are always needed, and there's always a lot of them that are at the hospital working. There's also security. Most hospitals need some kind of security people to make sure things are working properly. Security usually opens doors, closes doors. They're usually at entry points or watching cameras. It's also a good entry-level job. There's a little bit of schooling that you need to do. I think it's a few classes you take, but for the most part, it's a good job to work in a hospital. And if you do want to get your foot in the door, but you don't want to do, like I said, doctoring or nursing, then security is a good job. And lastly, I'd say maybe some kind of ED tech or some kind of tech in the hospital. Most of the people that I've talked to, they say that they require EMT experience or some kind of EMT training. So they do have some schooling associated with that job, but what they do in a hospital is pretty awesome. Any kind of codes or any kind of CPR in the emergency room, they're going to be the first ones there helping out with that. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of stuff. And please comment down below and let me know what you think about these jobs. And if you need any kind of advice, I'm there to help you out. Ask me anything you want. Thank you guys. Have a good day.